Why, hello there. Welcome to Smart Aspirations with Justin Huff. Sit back, chill out, and go on a journey around the world. Around the world. Justin will discuss tales of hope, discovery, and general irreverence with some of the most dynamic personalities in the travel business. Remember, we do cool shit, and so can you.
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to Smart Aspirations with Justin Huff. I'm your host, Justin Huff, and this week is our part 2 interview with Dr. Jack Wheeler. I was actually mind blown when I first saw the itinerary that we're about to discuss. It's Jack's Himalayan Helicopter Expedition, and I was totally mind blown because it was so unexpected with the scale of how much you can accomplish and see in such a short period of time. I've been in adventure travel for a long time, and I know the ins and outs and operational difficulties it is to reach any of the Himalayan base camps like Everest, and it's just to get to any of the Achttausenders, which are the mountains that are over 8,000 feet. That's the German word for it. Just to get to the base camps takes weeks and weeks of time, preparation. Obviously, the accommodation is tinted camping. It's not for everyone. And this journey gives you the greatest adventure of a lifetime in 1 week. You don't have to be in any type of extremely good physical shape to do it. You don't have to be a mountaineer to do it. And you can see 8 of the Achttausenders, of which there are 14, and we'll include maps and things for you to kind of educate yourself as we go along. To see, and it's just one of these bucket list experiences that Jack has creatively created for everyone. It used to be just getting to Everest Base Camp was the ultimate. The reality of Everest Base Camp, and not putting it down, it's an incredible experience, but the reality is you get there and Everest is just a tiny speck. With this, you actually see it from a bird's eye view. Nobody else is doing it. And it's you get to see different angles that mountaineers would just completely die for. They're to die for, so to speak. I'll let Jack discuss all of the details. But if you want to find out more, we're going to have links to the itinerary on our YouTube video. And if not, if you're not going to tune into the YouTube video, just go to swaggyswan.com. That's SWAGGY.com. And click on the inquiries tab. We can set up a time to chat. I can send you the itinerary, the pricing, all the details, answer any questions that you might have about the experience, and we can take it from there. It's an incredible trip that not all of us get to have, and I think that it's important to discuss it and hear from the guy that designed it. So without further ado, here is the phenomenal Dr. Jack Wheeler. We are joined once again, very graciously, by Jack Wheeler from his home in Portugal. And we wanted to have Jack on because there's every once in a while, there's a new program or a new itinerary that comes across my desk. And I get so excited about it that I'm jumping out of my skin, and I have to do a little bit of further investigation to see what's going on. And Jack has designed a Himalayan helicopter expedition that does something that no other company or no other human being on earth has the bandwidth or the creative mind to accomplish. And what it is, in summary, I'll let Jack explain, but you were literally getting some of the highest mountains of the world at your fingertips that would otherwise take weeks and weeks and weeks of preparation and training and commitment, and obviously time off work, which is a huge thing to accomplish, even remotely. So with that, I just want to ask, first of all, Jack, what gave you the idea to design something like this, and how long did it take you to put it together?
Well, there is an independent kingdom in Nepal on the border with Chinese Tibet, or Chinese occupied Tibet.
Right.
And it's called the Kingdom of Lao, L-O. It's in a region called Mustang, Mustang. Looks like Mustang, but they pronounce it Mustang.
Mustang.
And this has been an independent Tibetan kingdom since 1380.
Okay.
That is a long, long time. It has preserved its independence. It's now within the borders of Nepal because it's able to protect itself from Chinese imperialism.
Mm-hmm.
It is arguably the most traditional, true Tibetan place of true Tibetan culture on earth. There are other places, of course, Ladakh in India, Bhutan, but this is Tibetan culture that it has been virtually unchanged since the 1380s. I mean, and before. There's a place called the Sky Caves where people lived in these carved out caves on vertical cliffs. And they just stopped living there fairly recently. Been living there for what, 2,000 years.
Yeah.
The palace of the king, built in the early 15th century, still standing as the palace. But it's very, very hard to get to. It's one way it's been preserved, right? Mm-hmm. You have to walk. And it's a 2-week or more proposition. It's a difficult walk because you got to walk at 10, 12,000 feet for a couple of weeks.
Sure.
But I had heard that there was a way to do it with 4-wheel drive. You had to go partly 4-wheel, walk, get another group to take you to the next village, the next, etc. So you could compress this into a time that a lot of people could be able to do it because it's a dream to do it, but not too many people have that time to trek, as you mentioned, for long periods of time, etc. So I was able to make arrangements through an operator I know because I've been, first time I was in Nepal was, 1963.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So at any rate, this is 2015, and it worked fabulous. We had a great group of people. It was an incredible expedition. We had this fabulous time, and I fell in love with the Kingdom of Lao. And so I'm talking to my operator. We're there at the Yak and Yeti Hotel in Kathmandu.
Oh, yeah. Know it well.
And so I said to him, Pradeep, I've been thinking about what else we can do, because your business is treks, right? Mm-hmm. You lead treks to the big mountains. That's the big deal, right? Of course, the big one is to Everest and Annapurna Sanctuary and the Dhaulagiri Circuit. And not the Annapurna Sanctuary, that's another one. The Annapurna Circuit, there's two things. Into the sanctuary and then around the mountain, which is the circuit. And then all of the other big boys, the big 8,000 meter peaks. The biggest mountains in the world are 8,000 meters. They're called Achttausenders, is what the Germans call Achttausender. Those are the biggest in the world. And they're in the Karakorams of Pakistan, on the border with China, and then they're in Nepal. There's 8 of them in Nepal. Biggest mountains in the world, of course, including Everest. So I said, that's what you do. And he said, well, yeah. I said, has anybody ever done all of them? And he said, I don't think so. I mean, trek to all of the big mountains, every single one? Not that I know of. There's people who have climbed them. It's the holy grail of the world's best, most experienced mountaineers to climb all of the Achttausenders. But unless you're a serious professional climber, no, I don't know anybody who's been able to do that, take the time off, the money, etc., trek to them all.
Sure.
And I said, well, I want to go to them all. You do? I said, yes. By helicopter. He looked at me. Nobody had ever thought of that one before, because now you can do it. You can make something possible to people that could never do it ever in any other way. Mm-hmm. Plus, you see the mountains in a way that you can't see them even climbers, much less trekkers.
Totally different.
It's very interesting. You trek to Everest and you never see the mountain.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, you trek all the way. I mean, yeah, all this stuff, and it's this little dot, behind the wall. It's like you can barely see it. The
and
tip.
This is almost a month of somebody's life, and that's the reward.
That's the reward. This little thing. So,
don't forget that, listeners. Don't forget that.
Or the other one, I mean, you get to see these mountains like Kathmandu.
Right.
Now, that's the rarest of the big ones.
No, that's the one down close to India, right?
It's on the border with, it's Sikkim, which India took over. I mean,
correct.
Seized. It used to be an independent kingdom like Nepal or Bhutan, between Nepal and Bhutan. So at any rate, that's very rarely seen. And it's a very difficult trek. And still, it's very hard to see the mountain, to really see the mountain. So at any rate, I said, could we get the permits? He said, well, I'm going to try, because there's remote areas, and et cetera. So you need special permits. But we got them, and we did it the first time. And you can only do it in the spring, in the middle, late spring. Okay, because finally the camps are open and the helicopter landing pads are there, and because they all get destroyed in the winter storms, etc. Or in the fall. So you can only do it like, let's say, late April, early May. Okay? And you can do it after the monsoon is over, in late October, early November. Much after that. After that, it's, of course, you got the monsoon, and then after that, it gets cold. It gets too cold to do. Right. And so you've got a narrow window. And after the winter storms, and then after the monsoon starts, you've got that narrow window. So now we've done it 6 times. We'll be doing it our 7th this end of October, early November. Right. And it's turned out to be arguably, I think, and certainly the greatest one-week adventure in the world, and you can do it in a week. We do it in a week.
The adventure of a lifetime in a week.
In a week. That's the greatest adventure that there is on this planet that you can do in 1 week. There's nothing like it. Because, you see, have you been to Everest Base Camp?
No, I haven't done that yet.
Well, you get to Everest Base Camp, and you've got the west shoulder of Everest right there, and it's in the way. And you cannot see Everest.
Correct.
You've got this ice fall, and this huge ice fall that the climbers have to get up to, and you get into this valley called the Western Cwm, and that's where you climb up, and it's 20, 21, 22, 23,000 feet, etc. And that's the climbing route. Well, you can't see into the Western Cwm. You have to climb above the ice fall to do that. You got to be a professional or a guy who's actually climbing Everest.
Right.
Well, we actually fly into the Western Cwm of Everest, 22,000 feet, over 6,000 meters.
Unbelievable.
We're actually there. I mean, and there's the entire southwest face of Everest from summit to base right there in your face. The entire Lhotse wall is just right there in your face. You cannot believe what an experience it is. And we do this with all 8 of these mountains. We circle around Annapurna, all the way around the circuit. We fly into the sanctuary. We go all around Dhaulagiri to Dhaulagiri Base Camp, Annapurna Base Camp, Makalu, the Great Black, because it's named after Shiva, the black god of the Hindus.
Oh, right.
To Makalu. I mean, these mountains are right in your face. We fly right up to Kanchenjunga, and with Kanchenjunga, it is 5 mountains, 5 peaks that on the ridge that is over 8,000 meters. The entire ridge line is over 8,000 meters. It's Kanchenjunga Main, there's Kanchenjunga South, Central, Main, and a mountain called Yalungkang. And you see the whole thing. We can fly up to 23,000 feet at 7,000 meters, and it's there right there in your face. The entire north face of Kanchenjunga is one of the great sites, mountaineering sites in the world.
Right.
I mean, it's nothing. The entire north. We fly right up the north face of Kanchenjunga. It is an experience there is nothing like it on the planet.
I love your enthusiasm, and I know that for you've been to every country in the world, which we've touched on, but there's got to be some things that you're like, I've done that before. You mentioned to me when we first talked about this, that this is something you will do over and over and over.
Oh,
again.
Yeah, right.
Just the experience is that incredible.
That you do not get jaded on this one. There's no way, Jose.
And I'd imagine based on weather and experiences, I mean, one trip is not like the other. It's got to be completely different.
That's right. And you see them different. I took, I've taken both my sons.
Okay.
And so the younger son, he said, "What mountain is that, Dad?" And I said, I think it's whatever mountain it is, but I'm not sure. And he said, "I thought you knew these mountains." I said, Jackson, mountains look really different from different angles and perspectives. You recognize it right from one perspective, but you change it and you say, "What the hell? Oh yeah." So it's always different. And of course, the people you meet. We now have friends in the Kingdom of Lao, but you meet new people and you always have new experiences. And to be in the Kingdom of Lao is
an honor.
Is a life experience right there.
Right.
With all these, there's a Nifuk sky cave, Nifuk cave monastery, where it's built into the side of a cliff, and it's like 3 kilometers from Chinese Tibet.
Unbelievable.
But it's all peaceful, safe, peaceful. Couldn't ask for a more peaceful, a nicer place.
Well, and having been to Chinese Tibet before, I've only been to Lhasa. I've been to Bhutan separately, but having been to Lhasa and seeing what has been done to the actual culture and what's been closed off and what you can't see, it's tragic. And this, to everybody that's listening, is so special and so pure and so authentic that it has to be experienced in order to describe it completely.
I've driven around in Chinese Tibet, maybe 10,000 kilometers, north to south, east to west, completely across, etc. And unless you're way, way out there with nomads that are just untouched, Tibet's gone.
It's gone. It's
finished.
So tragic.
I mean, every monastery is riddled with Chinese spies and people on the payroll. I used to be able to pass out pictures of the Dalai Lama, but you try that again and you'll get bad things will happen to you.
Bad things will happen. I mean, this is a reality. This is a reality. Right. But I mean, onto from that cultural perspective and the actual adventure side of things, can you talk to me a little bit about the accommodation?
Accommodation where?
Throughout the itinerary. I mean, some people, they'll see this and be like, "Wow, this looks great." But
you mean we're still we're Himalayas?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, my favorite hotel in Kathmandu is the Yak and Yeti.
Sure.
I mean, that's the famous one. It's a classic one, and I love the Yak and Yeti. I mean, how can you not stay at the Yak and Yeti? Some sterile place, modern hotel.
I know.
But it's a wonderful, wonderful place, and it's a nice place, and the food is good and everything. We stay when we get to Lukla. Lukla is the staging area for Everest treks.
That's where you go up to Everest, right?
Okay. Right.
The base.
And it's the world's scariest airport.
Yes.
Lukla.
Yes.
You've been there? It's the world's scariest airport because it's on a ledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's on this ledge that's at an angle. The mountain here, cliff here, and the plane has to come down, shoot and reverse props, and turn over the apron. And then when it goes to take off, it's going downhill. They let go of those brakes and off it goes. And if anything happens, it's das vidanya. So
it's das vidanya.
You've never seen anything like this in your life. Okay. However, what do we care? We're in a helicopter.
Right. What do you care? So,
we just land, and that's the end of it.
And that's it. So viewers, be aware that you're not actually landing in the scariest airport with an airplane. It's a helicopter. You're all good.
Helicopter.
I've only done the landing in Paro. I haven't done this. And Paro was fine. I was totally cool with it.
Paro's okay.
Yeah.
But it's nothing like Lugla.
That's wild.
But at any rate, there's a very nice place to stay, the Everest Summit Lodge. There in Lukla, and but then we're back to Kathmandu, and we stay in Low,
mm-hmm.
and there's now a new place to stay in Low. Before it was a little primitive here, but
sure.
Now there's a nice place. I've actually got real bed, heated room, because you're at 11 grand, you're 11,000 feet. I mean, up high. And oxygen. Everybody has their own oxygen bottle, by the way.
Yes.
Always carry it, oxygen bottle, so we don't worry about acclimatization. You're very, very careful. I mean, safety is the main concern when you're doing something like this. And always, as you well know. Mm-hmm. And so, but one of them is everybody has their own oxygen bottle, and you always have to have oxygen when you're at altitude. And then we end up in Pokhara.
Right.
And Pokhara is at the base of Annapurna, but it's low, and it's almost like tropics. There's palm trees,
right,
and this beautiful lake, and everybody just loves Pokhara, and it's the adventure capital. You can do anything. Mm-hmm. You can go skydiving, you can go paragliding, you can whitewater rafting, you can go ice climbing, you can do whatever you want. There's so many activities in Pokhara. So we spent a little time there.
And the itinerary has a little bit of downtime in Pokhara, if I'm not mistaken, just to take advantage of that.
That's right. People love it. My favorite place is called the Moon Dance Cafe.
Moon Dance Cafe.
And that's where we have our great dinner, and we have a great time.
That's
the
awesome.
Moon Dance Cafe.
Now, a lot of people are going to be reading this and be like, "Wow, this sounds incredible," but oh my gosh, this COVID-19 I've put on my waistline, I'm not in the best shape. I need to, what kind of physical fitness expectations would you say that our clients need to have for this?
Well, that is another thing about this, because all you need is normal good health. You do not need any special skills like you do for many, many different types of adventures, right? You don't need to be in fantastic physical condition. You need to be in normal, decent, good health. You got to be able to walk. You've got to be able to function at altitude.
Right.
Altitude doesn't mean big altitude, like 18 grand. We're not doing that, right? Because anytime we're at altitude in a helicopter, we got oxygen. We got the oxygen mask. We're flying. We're walking around a base camp, etc. You need oxygen because you haven't had time to acclimatize. Right. You're in a helicopter, right? But you're able to walk and function, walk normally. You can't, you got to be able to function normally.
Sure.
We've taken people 80 years old.
Wow.
No problem, because they were in not fantastic shape. They're 80, but but they're not. They just normal, be able to normal.
Basic level of physical fitness, and obviously you want to get an assessment from your doctor to sign off on this, right?
That's right. That's right.
But just to make it abundantly clear for people that initially see this and have like, wow, this is exciting, but I might have reservations. But this is not a trekking trip, correct?
No, it's not.
Yeah. This is definitely not a trekking trip. And it's been done before by you. It's not like you would be going on the fly and doing this for the first time. So this has been well established. Right. The guides have done it before. Tell me a little bit about the pilots.
Well, these are the mountain rescue pilots.
Right.
We have ultra high altitude mountain rescue helicopters, best in the world, the Eurocopters.
Eurocopters.
And yeah. And the, what is it, AS-350B3? They're the ones who have to rescue climbers or trekkers at altitude that are in trouble. And so we're not rescuing anybody, which are dicey situations because they're hurt in a remote place or a difficult place to get to.
Sure.
But we're going to the base camps of these mountains. And so, but these are guys who are the best mountain rescue pilots in the world. They're in the Himalayas.
They're the best, the top.
And so they don't take any chances.
Sure.
Safety is first. They know every safety precaution, and they are the best at what they do. And Nepal makes very sure of this because they want to make sure, I mean, trekking is the main source of income for the Nepali economy, right?
Yep.
So if trekkers are getting hurt and people aren't getting rescued, what happens?
No income.
So, so they make very, very sure that they get the best helicopters. They're always maintained. And I happen to know the friend, the fellow who owns the best helicopter operation, the ones that really get them up on Mount Everest. At Camp 2 at 23,000 feet, they're able to rescue people.
Right. Now, and this is not something that is going to be a mass market trip. Obviously, this is a very targeted group of people.
You can take 8 people at a time.
Yep,
we have 2 helicopters, 2 helicopters, 4 people per helicopter, plus a guide, one of them a Sherpa, one of them me, and obviously the pilot.
But that was actually my next question was you're going to have the same Nepalese guide with you throughout.
Yes, normally.
Okay.
It depends because the logistics involved, and we have to be able to adjust if we have to get back to a mountain because we couldn't get to it before, et cetera, to make sure that everybody sees all 8.
Got it. Understood. Now, for those that have not been to this part of the world before, and I'm assuming there's a lot, tell me a little bit about, and I know this, but others might not, and we can both share stories of our culinary experiences in the region. How would you describe Nepalese food?
Well, it's very similar to Indian food, probably not as spicy.
Yeah.
But they have European food as well. So, I mean, yak and yeti have European food. It's not a problem. But we make sure that nobody gets sick. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And I also have a motto that well-fed people are happy people.
Yes. I would agree with that completely.
I learned a long time ago, boy. You don't feed people well, they get unhappy fast.
Real quick.
So feed people well. Get them in the best places, the best restaurants, the best food, the safest food. Because people will get unhappy if they get sick too. So we make very sure well-fed, happy people.
That's great. Now, for a lot of people, this sounds awesome. You know, the time's great. The price is good, and I love the idea. How the hell do I get there? Do you find that most people are flying directly from Kathmandu from a place like, Dubai on Emirates, or people kind of extending their trip to places like Bangkok or India, like New Delhi, for example? Any?
Well, one way we do it is through Turkish Air from Istanbul.
Oh, okay.
Because that's one of the quickest ways to get, especially if you're in the Eastern United States or if you're in Europe. Well, then to Istanbul and then
Makes perfect
bang,
sense.
you're right there. The connections really work. From Dubai, I don't think Emirates does it anymore. It's Fly
okay.
Dubai.
Okay,
It's Fly Dubai. But but Dubai is really, you have to go farther
It's a really long time.
than up. It's a longer deal.
Sure.
The most efficient way, I think, the quickest way is through Istanbul. Now, if you're in the Western United States and you want to see Hong Kong, Singapore, Bangkok,
Sure.
I'm going all this way, and why not?
Why not?
I've never been there. Why not? Etc. Why there's flights direct, nonstop. Hong Kong, Bangkok, Singapore, those are main, and Delhi,
Right.
of course. But that's those flights from Delhi. They operate at strange hours, and that is a long ways.
And you have to get an Indian visa if you're doing a stopover for sure. So it's just another piece of paperwork.
If you're doing a stopover, but now unless there's been a recent rule change, why you do not have to get the visa.
Right. You're just transiting
if
through the airport.
If you're just transiting through the airport.
Right. I know that there's a lot of interest in going to Delhi now, especially for us in San Francisco. There's a new nonstop on United there, but which makes things a lot easier to access that part of the world. But and again, no visa, correct, for Nepal? Or is it you pay at the border?
You take it. You get it at the airport. Some people find it more convenient because there's a procedure. There's a bureaucratic procedure, and it depends upon if you arrive at the right time. There's less of a line to wait, etc. But you can get it right there at the airport.
Right.
Or you can just get it for the Nepali embassy in the country you live in, the United States or wherever.
Right. And some guests like to have that added peace of mind, or if it cuts down on a queue at the airport once we first get there and we're just famished and want to get out.
Right.
Do you find that most people, are they arriving a couple of days early just to see a little bit more of Kathmandu, or are they just there, boom, 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 right on time?
It depends. Some people, it's both ways.
Okay.
Some people just want to get in, get out. Other people, I want to see a little bit of Kathmandu, or just get over the jet lag, etc., and get a good night's sleep and stuff like that. So it's maybe half and half.
Okay.
But they'll arrive a day early. That's normally what it is. When they want to leave, when it's time to go, why, they've seen Kathmandu. We take them around Kathmandu.
Yes.
There's like 4 World Heritage sites in Kathmandu, so it's interesting.
Could you tell us a little bit about those? Just the sightseeing in Kathmandu that you do?
Well, there's the Tibetan area. Of course, you've seen a lot of Tibetan artifacts by now in Kingdom of Lao, but still,
significant.
There is. And then there's the Ghats, where they're burning the bodies, and all the sadhus are there, wearing the ashes and the paint and everything, and so that's very dramatic.
Awesome. Well, I think I can't think of any other questions that potential people would think to have about this. I think we've pretty much covered everything. Are any parting comments or words of wisdom about this trip that you would say to anybody that we haven't touched on?
Well, I always say the mark of a true adventure is you cannot explain it. You have to experience it to understand it. Yep. And that's this. I mean, people will say, Jack, this is unbelievable. How am I going to explain this to anybody when I'm back home, what this was like? And I say, you can't. You can't do it. You can show them the pictures, show them videos, and give them an idea. But what it is actually like to experience this, to be at Mount Everest, and there it is. And you're seeing it in a way that very few people in the history of mankind have ever seen.
Right.
And the same with all of these mountains. And the Kingdom of Lao, and the cultural experience too, and the people that you meet. You cannot explain it. It's one of these things that is so impactful that it will stay with you for the rest of your life. It's an incredibly intense experience, but to understand it, you got to do it.
I would agree. My hope is that our viewers see your enthusiasm and they take that to heart and they just want to jump out of their skin like I do very much and get on a helicopter and join you. So Thank you so much for your time. We're going to include the link here down below. Click the link for the sign up for more information, to see the itinerary, to see the pictures. And we would love to see you with Jack in the Himalayas.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Justin, thanks and take care.
Thank you, Jack. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Smart Aspirations. Justin Huff is the manager of Swaggy Swan Travel. For all travel-related inquiries, please visit www.swaggyswan.com. That's www.swaggyswan.com. And click Inquiries. Have a stupendous day, and we'll see you next week.